Welcome to Talkin Sports with GBO and Amp. On today's show, we're going to do a recap of this weekend's playoff games. But before we do that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, click the bell to get notified anytime we come out with a new video. Also, hit that like button for us. We really appreciate that. So, Anthony, this week's game started out with the Bengals traveling to Nashville to take on the Titans.
Yep.
What were some of the things in this game that stuck out to you?
The Bengals defense, how well they played against the run. You know, they stopped Derrick Henry, limited him to 20 touches for only 62 yards. They did give up a touchdown, but they did limit Derrick Henry. He never had that big explosive play that we've seen him have before. Another thing is of how Joe Burrow just found a way to win. He got sacked 9 times, but he kept getting up and delivering the ball and, you know, put the Bengals in a situation to win the game, and that's what they did.
Yeah, you know, this game 19-16. Bengals pull out the victory. Last-minute field goal by McPherson. I think Coach Zach Taylor said he's got ice in his veins.
Yep.
No doubt about it. He did. You know, McPherson coming out of Florida has done a tremendous job this year for the Bengals. But, I mean, what a game by Burrow. Just the moxie that kid has. You know, we've seen it when it was at LSU against Clemson in the national championship game. I think we saw some of it last year before he got injured. And this year just taking it to a whole new level, too, with the receiving core that he's got. If you watched one of our last shows, we talked about, you know, some of the other key things or key guys that really had to have a good game in this game. One of them was T. Higgins.
Yep.
And, you know, this game, he, receiving yards were just less than 100, but really had a really solid game for Joe Burrow. Chase was there as well, had a really good game for Burrow. But, you know, Bengals really wasn't able to run the football, but they got the football to Mixon out of the backfield. It really made a difference in this football game as well. So what are some other keys, you know, in this game that you
spoke on the Mixon thing. He had 105 total yards with 1 touchdown to help, you know, take some of that pressure off Joe Burrow. Like you said, he wasn't running the ball too well, but he was catching the ball at the backfield, moving the chains. A.J. Brown had a huge game for the Tennessee Titans, and Tannehill. One of the big problems that Tennessee had was overcoming the 3 turnovers that Tannehill had. You know, the first possession of the game the Titans had, Tannehill throws an interception. The first possession of the second half, Tannehill throws a interception. And then the very last play for the Tennessee Titans, he throws another interception. Yeah. 3 huge interceptions thrown by the Titans. And at some of the worst times you could possibly have an interception there.
Yeah, I think that was the difference in a football game. Yep. You look at both quarterbacks. Burrow did have 1 interception, but looking at Tannehill and his performance, 3 interceptions in this game, I feel like that really cost the Titans this game. Also, too, Henry coming back since week 8. We've not seen Henry. Comes back. Do you think they brought him back too soon, or do you feel like he was ready and you know he was full strength in this game?
I feel like he was ready. Maybe not to get, you know, the 20 carries he had, because he only had 62 yards on those 20 carries. The backup running back for the Titans, Foreman, I mean, the few runs he did have, he looked explosive. He had, I believe, 4 or 5 runs for over 60 yards, and he had 2 big plays there. I think maybe they should have, you know, switched Henry and Foreman out a little bit and gave him a little mixture of the two instead of just running all Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But Henry, I mean, he still had a good game. He had a touchdown there, but they just didn't have that big play that you're used to seeing, you know, Derrick Henry late in ball games.
Yeah. I think, you know, this was a defensive battle in Nashville between both teams. Both teams played pretty good defense. As Anthony mentioned earlier, you know, Burrow was sacked 9 times by the Titans.
Yep.
Titans really couldn't run the football effective. Neither could the Bengals. It came down to big plays and who was going to play better at the quarterback position. And I think at the end of the day, you saw Burrow and the Bengals pull this one out because one is they didn't turn the football over, and when they got the opportunity, they capitalized on it.
Yep.
And then field goal kicking, special teams we talked about before. McPherson just came up clutch and big for the Bengals to pull this one out.
So the Bengals are advancing to the AFC Championship. That's the first time in 33 years that the Bengals will be playing in this title game.
Yeah, long time. So, but something to look forward to. Excited about watching this Bengals team play. We talked about this before in other shows. Is they're young, they're exciting, and really looking forward for them in this next game against the Chiefs. So let's move to the nightcap. For me, it was a big disappointment in this game. You had the 49ers traveling to Green Bay to face Aaron Rodgers. Maybe the last time we see Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay Packer uniform, but Green Bay just didn't get it done in this game.
Yep. The special teams for the 49ers came up huge. They didn't have a single offensive touchdown all game, and yet they still win this game 13-10. They had that big block field goal right there before the half. Then they had the block punt for a touchdown there in the second half to give them the first score of the game for them. Special team just was absolutely huge for this game. And you spoke on that one of our last shows. You was talking about the field goal kicking for the Packers. Well, it wasn't just the field goal kicking; it was the whole special teams unit this Packers had. Packers team had trouble with, and the 49ers overcome that and get the victory.
Yeah, because you look at the numbers overall offensively for the 49ers, really, lackluster to say the least. Garoppolo had 131 yards passing, and one interception. The offense didn't even score.
Yep.
So, and then Mitchell couldn't get the running game going really, even with Mitchell or Samuel. I think Samuel led them in receiving with only 44 yards receiving. So, and then you look on the other side of the Rodgers, the first series they go down and score, and you think, man, this is going to be a shootout. Yep. But that was it.
That was the only touchdown
that was
the whole game.
And then Rodgers and them, just Green Bay looked like, both teams really, when you look at both teams, it didn't look like they wanted to be there. Yeah. It was frustrating for me to watch this football game. I know Sunday's games were high impact, a lot of excitement, but this game to me was extremely boring. I thought, too, that they had a bunch of chances, especially on first down or second down, to throw some big passes down the field, and they neglected to do that. Yeah. They just ran the football, and then they'd get, second down and third and long, put them in tough situations. And then Rodgers, for example, is like, he hit Jones a bunch of times out of the backfield for a couple big plays, but a lot of those passes, were just for a couple yards. Yep. And then it'd get them down in distance. And then he would just look for Adams.
Yep.
It was extremely frustrating to watch this Green Bay Packer offense.
Yep.
And then you got a head coach from Florida that's supposed to be a offensive guru, and then you got Mr. MVP playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and it was just a lackluster performance, from the Green Bay Packers. Yeah,
just a bad offensive performance from both teams, especially when you compare them to the Sunday's games. That was just pathetic on the offense side of the ball. The 49ers, they was negative 10 yards on the first 4 drives. They went 3 and out 4 straight drives, like you said. Just no offense in this game, and that's what everybody's, in 2021-22 season, everybody's growing accustomed to that high-octane offense, high-scored. And this was everything but that in Green Bay.
Yeah, no running game like we mentioned. Rodgers did throw for 225, but it didn't capitalize on the big opportunities, big plays. 49ers take this one. They move on, take the Rams on Sunday. So they travel to L.A. It'll be the third time that they met. So should be an intriguing game there. We'll be back on here in the next few days to give you guys our breakdown of all the NFC, AFC championship games, as well give you our prediction in those games. So that was the games for Saturday. In my opinion, both games were defensive battles there. Not much in terms of the offense or highlights in those games Saturday. So let's move over to Sunday, where a little bit more offense, a little bit more excitement in these games. So you had the first game where you had the Rams traveling to the Bucs, play Tom Brady. The Rams take this one, which is an exciting game. But first question I got for you is, you heard this on the announcements yesterday, and then even a lot of talk this morning about Tom Brady. Do you think this is going to be the last game for Tom Brady we see?
As a football fan, I would like to see Tom Brady come back one more year because, you can just never get enough of greatness, and he is the best of all time at the quarterback position. It's going to be tough, though, because the Buccaneers got a lot of question. They got a lot of free agent pending guys that could be leaving in the free agency starts. Kind of like Rodgers, he isn't going to play for a rebuild. He wants to keep these guys together. They're going to have to take some less money, and come back for one more run. It's just going to be tough. You never know what the Bucs want to do spending-wise with their cap space and all. As a football fan, though, I would love to see Tom Brady come back one more year and see what he's got.
Yeah, because, too, you think about Godwin, you think about Fournette, some of these guys are going in free agency, and even on the defensive side and where the cap is. Bruce Arians did say he was coming back for another season. I know Tom said he was going to play till he's 45. We'll just have to wait and see on this. And because, too, I know he had a lot of fans, a lot of family members there yesterday to watch him play. and a lot of talking about this is going to be his last game. So we'll just wait and see if he still has the itch. I think he does, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now let's get to the game where you had Matt Gay hit the 30-yard field goal to win it. What a game, man. I mean, tell two halves really where, going into the third quarter, halfway through the third quarter, the Bucks are up 27-3. You think this game's probably out of reach. And then, the Rams try to do everything they can to give the Bucks the game. So too, with the 4 fumbles, 2 by Akers, and I go to Akers, I think he averaged a little over 2 yards a rush. I think he rushed the ball 24 times in this game. My question is, why did you not use Sony Michel more?
Yeah, and Michel's been running hard all year since Akers has been out with injury. Michel's been running hard, especially, later in the season. When Henderson went down, Michel took over the running back game, and he's been running hard, and then they only let him run one time like yesterday, even though Akers was struggling to get the ball going and the fumbles he had, which is kind of shocking there.
Yeah, another thing on this game, too, is going into this game, who's the one guy that you got to shut down for the Rams? It's Cooper Kupp, the best wide receiver in the NFL this year. Should be a top 3, MVP candidate. And he still has 9 catches for over 180 yards and a score. And not to mention that last drive, they get the ball back with 42 seconds left, tie ball game. They're wanting to get in field goal range. How do you let that guy make the last 2 catches and then get behind you defensively? How does that happen? It should never happen.
Yeah, that was a bad play call there. I believe Kupp, he was lined up in the slot there. And the Bucks, they blitzed that cornerback that was in the slot on him. So then you're leaving it up to your safety and one-on-one coverage against the best, like you said, the best wideout in the league this year. Stafford has to like his chances there with his Rams offense, and he took it, and that was it for the Buccaneers there.
Right. And then, too, you look at Stafford's performance, really another solid performance. Had a good game last week. The last week we talked about, too, is that he only threw the ball 17 times last week, where in this game he threw the ball 38 times. He did throw for over 360 yards, had 2 touchdowns, but the big key here is he had 0 interceptions. He didn't turn the football over. So, too, I think that's the reason why they won this game, and he continues to give his defense and his team a chance to win. And you look at the pressure that front four that gave Brady all game long.
All game.
Donald, whether it was Donald or Miller or Carter, these guys were all over Brady all game.
And we spoke on that, like you said, on our previous show there. We was talking about the question marks this Buccaneers offense had coming into the game with 2 of their starting offensive linemen questionable. And you saw the Rams, they knew that. They exploited that. They took advantage of it. They were switching up Donald from the D-tackle position. Then he'd switch over to the end position to, give him something different to look at and put some pressure on Tom Brady. And the Bucs, they fell behind early, which became pretty apparent when they was down 20-3 at halftime. They got one-dimensional. They knew what was coming. The Rams defense, that is. They knew Tom Brady didn't have any time in the pocket, so it was all short passes, quick passes to try to get his wideouts in space.
Right.
The Rams knew that. They was attacking that offensive line and forcing Tom Brady to get that ball out of his hands quick. And the Rams defense just played. They had a game plan and executed it to almost perfection, I believe.
Right. Yeah, this game was. Like I said, tell 2 halves, where the first half the Rams dominated, and then the second half the Bucs really came out and executed, and that's the reason why you had the great finish that we had at the end. And you can't ever, count Tom Brady out of the game. We've seen that in the Super Bowl against the Falcons, So let's move over to the next game where you had the thriller last night. One of the best games I've ever watched. Was the Bills traveling to Arrowhead to face Patrick Mahomes. What an outstanding, exciting football game, especially the last couple of minutes of this football game.
The final 2 minutes, instant thriller. If you fell asleep and missed it, you woke up and checked your phone and was like, what happened in those final 2 minutes? 25 points scored in the final 2.5 minutes. 3 lead changes there in the 2.5 minutes. An overtime game, you couldn't ask for much more if you're an offensive fan.
Yeah, and overs, unless you had the under in this game, 54, and you're going into the last couple minutes thinking you got this under grabs, and all of a sudden, man, this is crazy finish.
It was.
Crazy finish. And then you think about the 2 quarterbacks in this football game, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Josh Allen and then Patrick Mahomes, both of them leading their teams in rushing. which was, I could see Allen. Allen's done that a lot this year, but Mahomes really stepped up his game. And they gave him a lot of running lanes.
Yep.
The defensive coverages that they were playing, they were doubling up a lot of Kelsey and too, it gave him opening to be able to run the football. And then, Bills, they throw a lot of design runs in there for Allen, gives him a chance to, have all his blockers out there in front of him to block for him. But, it's a crazy. I'm trying to think when the last game I seen 2 quarterbacks lead their teams in rushing.
Yeah.
But everything those quarterbacks did to try to lead their teams to victory was just an outstanding performance from both players.
Yep. Josh Allen, he did just about everything he could to, advance in the playoffs here, not lose at Arrowhead Stadium back-to-back years in the playoffs. He passed for 329 yards, 4 touchdowns. Gabriel Davis had an absolutely huge game for the Bills, 4 touchdowns, over 200 yards receiving. 9
breakout game for him.
Yep.
He's been a red zone target for Allen for the past 2 years.
Yep.
But in this game, 8 grabs, like you said, 4 touchdowns. Could be, like we said, a breakout game and for his career.
Yep.
For Gabriel Davis.
Yep.
So,
and both quarterbacks, near perfect, like you said. No turnovers, no fumbles in this whole game.
And then talking about Tyreek Hill, that's something that we mentioned on the show, one of our shows previous last week, was that, Tyreek Hill is due for a big game, and he comes out of this game with 11 grabs, over 100, I think he had 150 yards receiving and a touchdown. And the peace sign.
That was insane. He actually threw the peace sign up to a guy that was in front of him running. The guy had an angle on him, and Tyreek Hill was actually behind I think it was a linebacker or safety he threw the peace sign up to. The guy was actually in front of him. Tyreek Hill's throwing up the peace sign and just jets off into the end zone. Just unbelievable speed that man has.
Yeah, so, for us, Sunday's games were just awesome.
Yeah.
Very intriguing games, a lot of highlights in these games, and thrills at the end was just awesome to see. So
13 seconds left. You think that's nowhere near enough time for the Chiefs to come back and tie the game up or have a chance to tie the game up. The Bills, they were kind of celebrating on the sidelines, when the camera looked over their way after they scored that final touchdown with 13 seconds left. They was thinking they got it done in Arrowhead Stadium. But 13 seconds, you don't think that's a lot of
time? That's a lifetime, man, especially for Patrick Mahomes, man. And this goes back to the Bucs game. How do you let the best wide receiver in the NFL get behind you? And Matthew Stafford's got one of the best arms in the NFL. Same situation here. Patrick Mahomes, 13 seconds left. You know that what they're trying to do, get in field goal range. They do that, and it's that's the end of the story.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's going to be hard to top these 4 games we had this weekend. All games were decided on last second, either field goals or walk-off touchdowns like you had in the Bills-Chiefs game. Yeah. It's going to be hard to top this weekend in football, but I'm looking forward to the AFC and NFC championship games on Sunday.
Yeah, and then a lot of stuff to talk about in offseason. Does Brady come back to the Bucs for one more year, give it another run? Does Rodgers – does he come back to Green Bay for another run, or does one guy hang it up, and does the other guy go find somewhere else to finish his career?
Now you're talking about Sean Payton leaving the Saints, going to another team, or maybe going into the booth and talking. You got Deshaun Watson. Where is he going to play next year after having a whole year off? A lot of question marks going into this. NFL
what the Panthers going to do? Their quarterback.
Yeah.
So a lot of questions and things that we're going to bring to you guys. So stay tuned to our channel too. We're going to bring this all to you guys all through this off season. So again, just stay with us. Makes it a lot easier for you guys if you guys just hit that subscribe button and then click the bell, because you'll get notified every time we come out with a new video. And our goal is to come out with 2 or 3 videos a week. Whether it's talking about MLB, NBA, NFL, college basketball, college football, and then college baseball is just right around the corner here, about to get geared up and ready to go. So, that's for the recap, guys, of this week's NFL division games. Like we said before, exciting finish to the division games, but we're looking forward to the NFC, AFC championship games. So what we'll do is tomorrow, the next day, we'll have a breakdown of each of these games for you guys. Also give you guys our prediction for the AFC, NFC games. So just stay tuned for that. I'm Charles. That's Anthony. We'll see you guys on the next show.